Let me ask you something real. Have you ever been in a meeting where everyone is speaking English, but somehow, you still feel like you don't fully belong in the conversation? You understand the words, but you don't understand the flow. You don't understand how professionals actually think when they speak.
And that's the real problem most English learners face. It's not grammar. It's not vocabulary. It's the difference between basic English and workplace English that actually gets results. Because in real offices, people don't speak like textbooks. They don't say simple sentences like start the meeting or finish the work all the time. They use powerful expressions, short phrases that carry meaning, confidence, and authority.
And here's the truth most people never realize. If you don't understand these workplace idioms and phrasal verbs, you will always feel one step behind, even if your English is good. You'll understand the words, but miss the intention behind them.
But today, that changes. Because in this podcast, we are going to break down the exact phrases real professionals use every single day. Not theory. Not boring grammar rules. But real English used in real workplaces.
By the end of this episode, you will not just learn English. You will start thinking like a professional communicator. You'll know how meetings begin, how decisions are discussed, how responsibility is taken, how progress is tracked, and how everything is properly closed.
So if you've ever wanted to sound more confident in meetings, if you've ever wanted to stop translating in your head before speaking, and if you've ever wanted to feel like you actually belong in professional conversations, then stay with us. Because we are about to master workplace idioms and phrasal verbs like a pro.
Alright, let's start with something you'll hear a lot in real workplaces, especially in meetings where nothing seems to move until someone takes charge. The phrase is, get the ball rolling. Now, don't think about sports here. In business English, this has nothing to do with a real ball. It's an idiom that simply means, to start something, especially a process, discussion, or meeting. When you use this phrase correctly, you immediately sound more natural and more confident in professional English.
What makes this expression powerful is that it's not just about starting something casually. It usually means you are taking initiative when others are waiting. For example, imagine a team meeting where everyone is silent and no one wants to speak first. That moment can feel awkward, even slow. So someone says, "Let's get the ball rolling." That person is basically saying, "Let's begin. Let's start the discussion. Let's move forward."
And that's exactly how it is used in real office environments. You might hear a manager say, "I'll get the ball rolling with a quick update on the project." Or in a team setting, "Who wants to get the ball rolling with ideas for the campaign?" In both cases, the meaning is the same: start the action, start the conversation, break the silence, and move things forward.
What's interesting is that native speakers use this phrase to sound natural, not formal or robotic. If you say just "let's start," it is correct, but it sounds basic. But if you say "let's get the ball rolling," it sounds more fluent, more dynamic, and more workplace ready. It also shows leadership. Even if you are not the manager, using this phrase can make you sound confident in group discussions.
Here's another real-life situation. Imagine you are in a project meeting and everyone is waiting for instructions. Instead of waiting, you say, "Let's get the ball rolling by assigning tasks first." Now you are not just participating, you are guiding the flow of the meeting. That's the real value of this expression.
One important thing to remember is that this idiom is often used at the beginning of something. You don't use it in the middle or end of a process. It's about initiating action. So whenever you are in a situation where something needs to begin, meeting, project, discussion, planning, you can naturally use this phrase.
To make it even clearer, think of it like this: no action yet, you started, you get the ball rolling. That's the logic behind it.
And the more you hear it, the more you'll notice it in real workplaces, movies, interviews, and business conversations. It's one of those phrases that instantly makes your English sound more professional when used correctly. Let's move to another phrase that every professional eventually hears at work, especially when things don't go as planned. The expression is, back to the drawing board. At first, it might sound a little confusing. You might imagine someone literally going back to a desk or a sketchboard. But in workplace English, it has a very specific meaning. It means, you need to start over because your original idea, plan, or solution did not work.
And this is something that happens all the time in real offices. Not every idea works. Not every plan succeeds. In fact, most projects go through adjustments, failures, and redesigns before they become successful. So when something fails, instead of saying something long like, "This didn't work, so we need to create a new plan from the beginning," professionals simply say, "Looks like it's back to the drawing board."
What makes this phrase powerful is that it sounds calm and professional. It doesn't sound like frustration. It sounds like problem solving. For example, imagine a marketing team launches a campaign, but it doesn't bring results. The manager might say, "This strategy didn't perform well. We're back to the drawing board." That means, we accept it didn't work, and now we restart the thinking process with a new approach.
Another important situation is product development. Imagine a company is building a new app feature. After testing, they realize users are confused and not using it properly. Instead of blaming anyone, the team says, "We'll have to go back to the drawing board." This keeps the conversation focused on solutions, not mistakes.
And that's the key difference. In professional English, this phrase is not about failure, it's about resetting and improving. It shows maturity in communication. You are not stuck on what went wrong. You are focused on what comes next.
Here's a simple way to remember it: you had a plan, it failed, you restart back to the drawing board. It's like pressing a reset button on your idea, but in a professional way of speaking.
You'll also hear this phrase in meetings when brainstorming ideas. For example, "We tried 3 designs, but none of them worked. Let's go back to the drawing board and rethink the concept." This shows teamwork, patience, and willingness to improve.
One more important point: this phrase is often used in group discussions, not in casual everyday talk. You won't usually say it while chatting with friends. It is more common in office environments, project discussions, and business planning.
And if you want to sound more fluent in English, this is the kind of phrase that helps you move beyond basic vocabulary. Instead of just saying, "We need to start again," you say, "It's back to the drawing board." That small change makes your English sound more natural, more confident, and more workplace ready.
Now let's talk about a phrase that is absolutely essential in teamwork and office communication. The expression is, "on the same page." At first, it might sound like something related to reading or books. But in workplace English, it has a very important meaning. It means, everyone understands the situation in the same way and agrees on what is happening or what needs to be done.
And honestly, this is one of the most important phrases in professional environments, because most problems at work don't come from lack of effort, they come from miscommunication. People think differently. People interpret instructions differently. That's where confusion starts. So when someone says, "Are we on the same page?" they are checking whether everyone has the same understanding before moving forward.
For example, imagine a project meeting. A manager explains the task, but before ending the meeting, they ask, just to confirm, "Are we all on the same page?" This means, do you all understand the goal, the plan, and your responsibilities clearly? It's a way to avoid mistakes later.
Another situation is when 2 colleagues are working together. One person might think the deadline is Friday, while the other thinks it is Monday. Before the confusion grows, one of them might say, "Let's make sure we are on the same page about the deadline." This avoids misunderstanding and saves time, effort, and frustration.
What makes this phrase powerful is that it is not just about agreement, it is about alignment. It ensures that everyone is thinking in the same direction, not just working separately with different ideas in mind. In fast-moving workplaces, this is extremely important.
You will often hear this phrase in emails, meetings, and even casual office conversations. For example, "I just want to make sure we are on the same page before I proceed with the design." This shows that you are careful, professional, and detail-oriented.
It also helps in leadership communication. A good leader doesn't just give instructions, they confirm understanding. So instead of assuming everyone understood, they ask, "Are we on the same page?" That simple question prevents big problems later.
And here's something interesting: native speakers use this phrase to avoid sounding strict or controlling. Instead of saying, "Do you understand?" which can sound direct or even slightly harsh, they say, "Are we on the same page?" It feels more collaborative and respectful.
Let's simplify it so it sticks in your mind. Same page means same understanding. Same direction. Same idea. If not, you pause, clarify, and realign. That's the purpose of this phrase.
And once you start using it naturally, your workplace English becomes more polished. You stop just communicating information, and you start communicating clarity. Now let's move to a phrase that is extremely important in real workplace communication, especially in emails, messages, and professional conversations. The phrase is follow up. At first, it sounds simple, but in business English, it carries a very specific and powerful meaning. It means to check on something again after an initial action, meeting, or communication to make sure it is progressing or completed.
And this is something you will hear and use constantly in offices. Because in real work life, things don't always get done immediately. Emails are sent, meetings happen, tasks are assigned, but then you often need to check again. That's where follow-up comes in. It keeps communication active and ensures nothing is forgotten.
For example, imagine you send an email to a client, but you don't receive a reply. Instead of waiting endlessly, you say, "I will follow up on the email tomorrow." This means you will check again, politely remind them, or ask for a response. It sounds professional, not pushy.
Another common situation is in project work. Let's say you assigned a task to a teammate. After a few days, you want to know the progress. Instead of sounding strict, you say, "I'm just following up on the task I assigned last week." This keeps the tone respectful but still ensures accountability.
What makes this phrase so powerful is that it helps you stay organized and responsible in communication. In workplaces, silence does not always mean progress. Sometimes things get delayed, forgotten, or stuck. So following up is how professionals keep things moving.
You will also hear it in meetings and customer service situations. For example, "Let me follow up with the team and get back to you." This means the person will check internally and return with information. It shows responsibility and reliability.
And here's something important: follow up is not just about reminding others. It's also about showing professionalism. If you never follow up, people may think you are not serious or not organized. But if you follow up correctly, you appear proactive, attentive, and dependable.
There's also a small but important language detail here. Follow up can be used as a verb or a noun. As a verb, "I will follow up with them." As a noun, "I sent a follow-up email." Both are commonly used in business English.
And tone matters a lot. If you say it politely, it builds strong relationships. For example, "Just following up on my previous message regarding the report." This sounds respectful and professional.
So the key idea is simple: send message, wait, check again, that is follow up. It's not about pressure. It's about keeping communication alive and ensuring work actually gets done.
Once you start using this phrase naturally, your workplace communication becomes much more effective. You stop assuming things will happen on their own, and you start actively managing progress.
Now we're stepping into a phrase that quietly defines almost every workplace conversation, even when people don't say it directly. The expression is, "get ahead." At first, it sounds like a simple career phrase, something motivational, something you might hear in a speech or a self-help video. But in real workplace English, it is far more practical and far more powerful. To get ahead means to progress faster than your current position, improve your skills, rise in responsibility, or move forward in your career or goals through consistent effort and smart decisions. But here's what makes it interesting. Nobody in a real office says, "I want to get ahead," all the time directly. Instead, they show it through actions, and they recognize it in others.
Exactly. And this is where most learners misunderstand the phrase. Get ahead is not only about competition. It is not about trying to beat everyone else in the room. It is about something more subtle and more important. It is about progressing within your own environment, while others stay static. That means two people can start in the same place, but their decisions determine completely different outcomes. One person stays comfortable. The other pushes forward. And that difference is what getting ahead really means in the workplace.
Let's bring it into a real office scenario. Imagine a new employee joins a company. At first, everything is new: tasks, systems, people, expectations. Now, there are two types of approaches. The first employee does exactly what is assigned. Nothing more. Nothing less. They wait for instructions, complete tasks, and go home. The second employee starts observing. They ask questions. They learn beyond their role. They try to understand how the entire team works, not just their part. After 6 months, something becomes obvious. One employee is still in the same position, doing similar tasks. The other has started getting more responsibility, more trust, and more visibility. That second employee is getting ahead. Not because of luck. Not because of favoritism. But because of behavior.
And that's the key idea. Get ahead is not an event. It is a process. It does not happen in one moment. It happens in small decisions repeated over time. For example, choosing to learn instead of staying comfortable, choosing to ask instead of assuming, choosing to improve instead of repeating, choosing to take responsibility instead of avoiding it. All of these decisions quietly push someone forward. And in professional English, when people say, "he is getting ahead," they are referring to this continuous movement.
Now let's look at how this phrase is actually used in real workplace language. You might hear something like, "If you want to get ahead in this industry, you need to improve your communication skills." Notice something important here: it is not just advice. It is a reality check. Because in almost every professional field, communication is not optional. It is a core skill. Or you might hear, "She works long hours because she wants to get ahead in her career." This shows dedication. It shows intention. It shows direction. But again, it is not just about working more hours. It is about working with purpose.
There is also another important angle. Get ahead is often connected to timing. For example, he always tries to get ahead of deadlines. This means completing work earlier than expected, not waiting until the last moment. And in professional environments, this is extremely valuable. Because people who get ahead of deadlines reduce stress, avoid mistakes, and build trust. Trust is one of the most important currencies in any workplace.
And here is something deeper that many learners miss. Get ahead is not always visible. You might not see it immediately. Someone studying after work, someone practicing skills at night, someone learning quietly without telling anyone, that is also getting ahead. Because progress is not always loud. Sometimes it is silent. But it still moves you forward.
Now let's talk about mindset. Because this phrase is not just English, it reflects how you think. People who don't get ahead usually think in terms of, "What is my task?" But people who do get ahead think, "What is the next level beyond my task?" That shift in thinking is everything. One is reactive. The other is proactive. One waits. The other moves. And workplace English reflects that difference very clearly.
Let's simplify the idea so it becomes unforgettable. If life is a road, standing still means no progress, walking normally means slow progress, but getting ahead means you are moving with intention, faster than your current position, towards something better. That is why this phrase is used in career development, interviews, performance reviews, and motivational conversations.
And if you listen carefully, you'll notice something. Native speakers don't use "get ahead" just to describe success. They use it to describe effort, direction, and ambition in real time. It is not about the destination only. It is about the movement toward it.
So when you hear someone say, I want to get ahead in life, what they really mean is, I want to grow. I want to improve. I want to move forward in a meaningful way. It is simple English, but powerful thinking behind it.
And that's why mastering this phrase is important for workplace fluency. Because when you use it naturally, you are not just speaking English correctly. You are speaking like someone who understands professional growth.
Now we're entering a phrase that quietly separates passive workers from active professionals. The expression is, take on. At first, it sounds simple. Maybe even casual. But in workplace English, it carries a strong sense of responsibility, confidence, and decision-making. To take on something means to accept a task, responsibility, challenge, or job willingly, especially something that requires effort or accountability. But here is the deeper meaning most learners miss. Take on is not just about doing work. It is about choosing to carry weight.
And that word, weight, is very important here. Because in real workplaces, not all tasks are equal. Some tasks are routine. Some are easy. Some are predictable. But then there are tasks that require ownership, pressure, problem solving, responsibility when things go wrong. And when someone says, I will take on this task, they are not just saying they will do it. They are saying, I will be responsible for it from start to finish. That is a completely different level of commitment.
Let's imagine a real office situation. A company is struggling with a delayed project. The deadline is close. The team is already stressed. People are unsure who should handle the situation. Silence fills the room. Then one person says, I'll take on this project. That moment changes everything. Because they are not just volunteering. They are stepping into responsibility when others hesitate. That is the true meaning of take on in professional English.
And what's interesting is that this phrase is often used in moments of uncertainty. When things are easy, no one needs to take on anything. But when things are difficult, unclear, or high pressure, that's when this phrase becomes powerful. For example, I can take on the extra workload. She decided to take on the leadership role. They took on the challenge of rebuilding the system. Each of these sentences shows more than action. They show willingness to accept responsibility that others might avoid.
Now let's break it into workplace reality. In every office, there are two types of people. The first type avoids extra responsibility. They say, that's not my job. I'm already busy. Someone else can handle it. The second type steps forward and says, I'll take on that responsibility. And over time, something becomes very clear. The people who grow in their careers are not always the ones who do the minimum. They are the ones who take on more than expected. Not randomly. Not blindly. But intentionally.
And this is where take on becomes a career-defining phrase. Because when managers see someone consistently taking on responsibility, they begin to trust them with bigger tasks. And in professional life, trust is more valuable than skill alone. Skill gets you hired. Responsibility gets you promoted.
Let's look at another scenario. A team is launching a new product. Everything is planned, but suddenly one key member is unavailable. Panic starts building. The deadline doesn't move. The expectations don't change. But the workload suddenly increases. In that moment, someone says, I'll take on their part of the project. That sentence alone can save momentum. Because it prevents delay, confusion, and collapse. This is how leadership often begins, not with titles, but with willingness.
Now let's go deeper into meaning. Take on is also about courage. Because taking on responsibility means you are accepting possible pressure, possible mistakes, and possible accountability if things go wrong. That's why not everyone says it easily. It requires confidence in your ability to handle challenges. And in workplace English, that confidence is very noticeable.
You might also hear it in interviews. For example, Have you ever taken on a leadership role? Here, they are not just asking if you had a position. They are asking, did you accept responsibility when it mattered? Did you step forward when needed? Did you handle pressure? Because take on reflects real-world behavior, not just job titles.
There is also another subtle meaning. Sometimes take on is used when something new enters your life that increases responsibility. For example, I took on a new client. He took on more duties after the promotion. This shows expansion, growth, increased trust, but also increased expectations.
And this is the key idea behind the phrase. When you take on something, your role expands. Your responsibility grows. Your visibility increases. But so does your accountability. That is why this phrase is not light, it is meaningful.
Now let's simplify it into a mindset. Avoid responsibility, stay the same, accept responsibility, grow, take on responsibility, move forward faster. That is the hidden structure of workplace progress.
And here is something important many people don't realize. In real professional environments, opportunities don't always come as promotions. Sometimes they come as tasks no one wants. And the people who say, "I'll take on it," are often the ones who move ahead faster than others. Because opportunity is often disguised as responsibility.
That's why this phrase is so powerful in workplace English. It is not just vocabulary. It is a signal of mindset. When you say, "I will take on this," you are not only speaking English correctly. You are showing readiness, confidence, and ownership.
And once you start noticing it, you will see this phrase everywhere, in meetings, emails, interviews, leadership talks. Because in every organization, progress depends on people who are willing to take on responsibility when it matters most. Now we arrive at the final phrase of this episode, and interestingly, it is the same phrase you will hear at the end of countless real meetings, calls, and workplace discussions. The expression is, wrap up. At first, it sounds casual, almost informal. But in workplace English, it has a very clear and important function. To wrap up means to finish something in a neat, organized, and complete way, especially a meeting, task, discussion, or project. But here is what makes it powerful: it is not just about ending something. It is about bringing closure in a structured way.
And that difference is very important. Because in professional environments, not all endings are the same. Some endings are messy. Some are sudden. Some leave confusion behind. But when someone says, "Let's wrap up," it means, we are not just stopping, we are finishing properly. We are collecting ideas, finalizing decisions, and ensuring nothing is left incomplete. That is why this phrase is used so often in meetings.
Imagine a real office meeting. People are discussing a project for 40 minutes. Ideas are flying. Decisions are being made. Tasks are being assigned. Then the manager looks at the time and says, "All right, everyone, let's wrap up." That simple sentence changes the energy in the room. It signals that discussion is ending, but also that clarity is coming.
Now what happens after that is just as important as the phrase itself. Because when you wrap something up properly, you don't just stop talking. You summarize. You confirm decisions. You assign final responsibilities. You make sure everyone leaves with the same understanding. So wrap up is not silence, it is closure with clarity.
And this is why it is such a professional phrase. Because in real workplaces, unfinished communication creates problems. People leave meetings confused. Emails get misunderstood. Tasks get delayed. But when someone wraps things up properly, they reduce confusion. They bring order. They create alignment at the end of chaos.
Let's look at another real-life example. Imagine a team working on a presentation. They've been discussing slides, design, content, and deadlines. After everything is discussed, one person says, "Let's wrap up and finalize the action points." That means, we are done discussing, now we are locking decisions and moving forward. It is a transition from talking to execution.
And here is something very important. Wrap up is not only used for meetings. It is also used for tasks, projects, and even conversations. For example, I need to wrap up this report before the deadline. They wrapped up the project successfully last week. In all these cases, the meaning stays the same, to complete something fully, not partially.
Now let's go deeper into why this phrase matters in workplace English. Because communication is not just about starting things well. It is also about ending things well. And many people underestimate this part. They focus on beginning tasks, starting ideas, joining meetings, but they forget the importance of closure. That's where wrap-up becomes essential.
Think of it like this: a good beginning creates attention. A good middle creates progress. But a good wrap-up creates clarity and trust. And in professional environments, trust is everything. When people know you finish things properly, they rely on you more.
You will also notice something interesting in native communication. Instead of saying "let's finish," people often say "let's wrap up." Why? Because finish sounds abrupt. But wrap up sounds organized, professional, and intentional. It feels like you are putting everything in order before closing.
And that subtle difference is what makes workplace English sound natural. For example, unnatural, "let's finish the meeting." Natural, "let's wrap up the meeting." One sounds basic. The other sounds professional.
Now let's simplify the meaning so it sticks permanently. Unfinished, ongoing, confusion, half done, incomplete, results, wrapped up, clear, closure, clear direction, clear outcome. That is the transformation this phrase represents.
And here is something very real about workplace life. Most people don't struggle with starting work. They struggle with finishing it properly. Emails are left unanswered. Reports are half done. Meetings end without clarity. But professionals who stand out are the ones who know how to wrap things up properly. They don't leave gaps. They don't leave confusion. They close loops.
And that's why this phrase is so important in your English journey. Because when you use it naturally, you are not just speaking fluently. You are showing that you understand structure, clarity, and professionalism.
Let's imagine the full picture of this podcast now. We started with getting the ball rolling, starting things. Then we went back to the drawing board, fixing failures. We aligned on the same page, ensuring understanding. We followed up, keeping communication alive. We got ahead, progressing in career and mindset. We took on responsibility, accepting challenges. And now we wrap up, bringing everything to a clear and professional close. That is the full cycle of workplace communication.
And if you think about it, this is exactly how real professional life works. Start with action. Adjust when needed. Align with others. Stay responsible. Grow forward. Take challenges. And finally, wrap it all up with clarity. That is not just English. That is workplace intelligence expressed through language.
So as we wrap up this podcast episode, remember this: fluency is not about knowing words. It is about using the right words at the right time, in the right situation, with the right tone.
And if you can use even a few of these phrases naturally in your daily workplace communication, your English will immediately sound more confident, more professional, and more real.
Thank you for staying with us through all 7 lessons.
And now, let's wrap up this episode. Both, see you in the next podcast.
So that's the full journey we just went through. From starting things, to fixing mistakes. From aligning understanding, to following up. From growing in your career, to taking responsibility. And finally, learning how to properly wrap everything up.
And if you really think about it, these aren't just English phrases. They are how real workplaces function. Because in professional life, it's not just about speaking English correctly. It's about communicating clearly, confidently, and with purpose.
If you remember even a few of these expressions and start using them naturally, you will notice something change. People will understand you better. You will feel more confident in meetings. And your English will start sounding more professional, without forcing it.
But don't just listen to this once and forget it. The real progress happens when you use these phrases in real situations, emails, conversations, meetings, even daily practice. That's how fluency is built, step by step, not overnight.
And remember, no one becomes confident in workplace English by memorizing rules. They become confident by using real expressions in real moments.
So take these lessons with you. Practice them. Repeat them. Apply them. And slowly, you'll notice that you're not translating in your head anymore, you're just speaking.
That's the goal. Not just English, but natural, professional communication.
If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to stay with us for the next one. Because we are just getting started.
Until then, keep learning, keep improving, and keep moving forward. Both, see you in the next podcast.